Welcome to this lesson on using cage analysis in selecting international markets. Pankaj Ghemawat is an international strategy guru who developed the cage framework to offer businesses a way to evaluate countries in terms of the distance between them. In this case, distance is defined broadly to include not only the physical geographic distance between countries, but also the cultural, administrative, and economic differences between them. The cage cultural, administrative, geographic, and economic distance framework offers a broader view of distance and provides another way of thinking about location and the opportunities and concomitant risks associated with global investment. This table illustrates the overall framework and the main decision criteria. You will find this table in more detail in your learning manual. This table illustrates how industries or products are affected by distance in the making of international expansion decisions. We will look now in a bit more detail at each of these. Some considerations in respect of cultural distance may include products that have high linguistic content, such as TV products that affect cultural or national identity of consumers, such as foodstuffs. Additionally, product features may vary in terms of size, for example cars, standards for example with electrical appliances, or packaging. And finally, products may carry country-specific quality associations, such as wines from France. In considering administrative distance, government involvement is high in industries that are producers of staple goods, such as electricity, producers of other entitlements, such as drugs. Consider the vaccine challenges during the global pandemic of 2020. Large employers, such as in farming. Large suppliers to government, for example in mass transportation. Industries which are national champions, such as with aerospace. Industries which are vital to national security, such as telecommunications. And exploiters of natural resources, as in oil, mining and other natural resources. And industries that are subject to high sunk costs, such as with infrastructure. When considering geographic distance, factors to consider include products that have a low value of weight or bulk ratio, such as cement. Products that are fragile or perishable, such as glass or fruit. Where communications and connectivity are important, such as with the financial services industries. And products and services where local supervision and operational requirements are high. And finally, when considering economic distance, the nature of demand of areas with income level, with luxury cars for example. A second factor is where economies of standardization or scale are important. Or where labor and other factor cost differences are salient, such as with garments. Another factor is where distribution or business systems are different, such as with insurance. And finally, where companies need to be responsive and agile, such as with home appliances. To apply the cage framework, identify locations that offer low raw material costs, access to markets or consumers, or other key decision criteria. You might, for instance, determine that you're interested in markets with strong consumer buying power, so you would use per capita income as your first sorting criterion. As a result, you would likely end up with some type of ranking. Ghemawat provides an example for the fast food industry, where he shows that on the basis of per capita income, countries like Germany and Japan would be the most attractive markets for the expansion of a North American fast food company. However, when he adjusts this analysis for distance using the cage framework, he shows that Mexico ranks as the second most attractive market for international expansion, far ahead of Germany and Japan. Zara is a Spanish clothing retailer based in Galicia, Spain. Founded by Mancio Ortega in 1975, it is the flagship chain store of the Inditex Group, the world's largest apparel retailer. This cage analysis was used to compare the relative attractiveness of different markets using the cage distance criteria. To understand the usefulness of the cage framework, consider Dell and its efforts to compete effectively in China. The vehicles it used to enter China were just as important in its strategy as its choice of geographic arena. For Dell's corporate clients in China, the cage framework would likely have revealed relatively little distance on all four dimensions, even geographic, given the fact that many personal computer components have been sourced from China. However, for the consumer segment, the distance was rather great, particularly on the dimensions of culture, administration, and economics. For example, Chinese consumers didn't buy over the internet, which is the primary way Dell sells its products in the United States. One possible outcome could have been for Dell to avoid the Chinese consumer market altogether. However, Dell opted to choose a strategic alliance with distributors, whose knowledge base and capabilities allowed Dell to better bridge the cage framework distances. Thus the cage framework can be used to address the question of where, which arena, and how, by which entry vehicle, to expand internationally. While you can apply cage to consider some first-order distances, for example, physical distance between a company's home market and the new foreign market, or cultural differences, for example, the differences between home market and foreign market customer preferences, you can also apply it to identify institutional differences. Institutional differences include differences in political systems and in financial markets. The greater the distance, the harder it will be to operate in that country. Emerging markets in particular can have greater differences, because these countries lack many of the specialized intermediaries that make institutions like financial markets work. If an institution lacks these specialized intermediaries, there is an institutional void. An institutional void refers to the absence of key specialized intermediaries found in the markets of finance, managerial talent, and products, which otherwise reduce transaction costs. When a firm detects an institutional void, it has three choices for how to proceed in regard to the potential target market: adapt its business model, change the institutional context, or stay away. This diagram adds to this discussion by illustrating possible ways of bypassing such voids. For example, when McDonald's tried to enter the Russian market, it found an institutional void, a lack of local suppliers to provide the food products it needs. Rather than abandoning market entry, McDonald's decided to adapt its business model. Instead of outsourcing supply chain operations, like it does in the United States, McDonald's worked with a joint venture partner to fill the voids. It imported cattle from Holland and russet potatoes from the United States, brought in agricultural specialists from Canada and Europe to improve Russian farmers' management practices, and lent money to farmers so that they could invest in better seeds and equipment. As a result of establishing its own supply chain and management systems, McDonald's controlled 80% of the Russian fast food market by 2010. The process, however, took 15 years and $250 million in investments. Finally, the firm can choose the strategy of staying away from a market with institutional voids. For example, the Home Depot's value proposition, that is, low prices, great service, and good quality, requires institutions like reliable transportation networks to minimize inventory costs, and the practice of employee stock ownership, which motivates workers to provide great service. The Home Depot has decided to avoid countries with weak logistics systems and poorly developed capital markets, because the company would not be able to attain the low-cost, great service combination that is its hallmark. Nestlé's Nespresso division makes a single-cup espresso machine, along with single-serving capsules of coffees from around the world. Nestlé is headquartered in Switzerland, but the coffee it needs to buy is primarily grown in rural Africa and Latin America. Nespresso set up local facilities in these regions that measure the quality of the coffee. Nespresso also helps local farmers improve the quality of their coffee, and then it pays more for coffee beans that are of higher quality. Nespresso has gone even further by advising farmers on farming practices that improve the yield of beans farmers get per hectare. The results have proven beneficial to all parties. Farmers earn more money, Nespresso gets better quality beans, and the negative environmental impact of the farms has diminished. Cage analysis asks you to compare a possible target market to a company's home market on the dimensions of culture, administration, geography, and economy. Cage analysis yields insights in the key differences between home and target markets, and allows companies to assess the desirability of that market. Cage analysis can help you identify institutional voids, which might otherwise frustrate internationalization efforts. Institutional differences are important, to the extent that the absence of specialized intermediaries can raise transaction costs, just as their presence can reduce them. Subscribe now and join us in your career journey. Want to learn more? Click on one of our websites to view our range of online business and management courses.